and we're going to have a sneak peek at our new 425. What we're looking at in this frame is the deck plug under construction. Deck plug is the first part we make when we're making a deck mold. We make the mold on the deck plug. You can see we've made this plug out of plywood, and we've mocked up the hardware, windows, as many parts as we can to check the accuracy of the sheet leads and get a sense of how the boat's going to lay out and where the hardware is going to be. New 425, as you can see from this dramatic angle, is the long sweep of the edge of the coach roof that fares all the way into the cockpit combings as one continuous line. We've also put very wide weather decks and a fairly low coach roof, all to give a very sleek and very contemporary appearance, but yet we've held true to our traditional Catalina proportions of a coach roof that's low enough to step on from the weather decks that are wide enough to walk forward, chain plates that are far enough inboard so they don't impede your progress forward. We think it's a very dramatic looking boat. You also see that the stem on this boat is a 9-degree angle stem, something we've calculated to be just the right angle to extend the water line for more sailing length, but enough angle so that an anchor swinging from the end of the anchor roller as it breaks the surface of the water is unlikely to hit the hull. We're looking at the stern of the 425 hull and deck plug. This boat will have a kind of unique hull to deck joint, a joint we first tried on the Catalina 275 Sport. We feel it's a great looking and extremely strong joint. What you see here will not be part of the boat. The hull actually ends right about here, and this part, this flange that you see, recesses into the hull, so it's a continuous surface. Again, very strong because we've molded this corner into the hull, and the deck flange starts here. So the hull has the molded in fiberglass toe rail. So there's internal flange hull and deck joint with the toe rail integral part of the hull. Very clean looking, extremely strong. We bond the two joints with the methyl methacrylate adhesive, and it's through bolted where hardware bolts through. What you see here is the stern platform. The hull actually ends right down here. This flange will not be part of the boat. We have a stern platform. In the stern platform, we've recessed the boarding ladder, so this will be a hatch. This boarding ladder will be underneath that hatch. It won't be mounted on this surface as you see it. So you lift up this hatch and pull out the boarding ladder, as you do on some of the other 5 Series models. On the starboard side, there'll be a large flush hatch. Right here, it'll be trimless. This will be a polycarbonate hatch with aluminum frame, but you will not see the frame, so it'll be a flush surface, and the seat part, that's part of this locker lid, goes out and completely trims this off. This hatch opens this way. It's a very large hatch so that we can have a compartment that will hold a 6 to 8 man life raft or inflatable dinghy or any other gear, but we want to make it large enough to fit a life raft. On top of this will be a fabric bin inside this locker for winch handles and small gear. Or you can remove the fabric bin and put larger gear in from the top. For steering, we're using an Edson system. These are called the performance pedestals. They'll have a shiv box directly below and lead straight to the quadrant that'll be below decks. This system uses pre-stretched cable, so even though we have significant cable runs, there'll be very little stretch in the system. It shouldn't need the adjustment other kinds of systems use. We have our traditional 5 Series instrument pods port and starboard, and of course this helm seat will be continuous all the way across to here. The lid's not in place right now. There are angled foot braces outboard, and there'll be another angled brace inboard, so you have a comfortable place to brace yourself on either tack. These seats are approximately 7.5 inches taller than the cockpit seats, so you'll easily be able to see over anyone sitting in the cockpit. And from a seated position, you have a clear view of the stem fitting, which is very important when docking. We've located the primary winches fairly far aft, because we've heard from so many current Catalina owners that they sail shorthanded or single-handed often. We wanted the boat to be completely controllable from the helm position. This is a dummy winch, of course, but we do that to check for leads. The overlapping Genoa sheet leads will go through that foot block right to the winch, but this is unique. Here we have two stoppers, and there'll be a pair of these stoppers on each side. Lines come from troughs recessed in the combing caps from forward. Both go to the mast base. One is for the main sheet, the other is for the self-tacking jib sheet, which is standard. So be able to control both the self-tacking jib and the main sheet from this position. Yet we recessed it so when you're coming in or out of the cockpit, there are no exposed lines to create a tripping hazard. So you'll be able to sit on top of the combings as well. We're calling this the cross-sheeting system. The beauty of this is it's extremely versatile and can be set up in a matter of minutes to the way you're going to be sailing that day. You can control both the jib and the main from the aft positions on both sides of the boat, or relieve the leads in a matter of the sheets in a matter of minutes, so you control the jib and the main sheet from the console, both having use of the secondary winches on the cabin top. It's going to be a unique feature. I think it's going to be popular with Catalina sailors. Side, we're going to have a gull wing hatch because this is over the flex cabin in the interior. Both these cabins are symmetrical, but one of them set up to be more flexible for storage. The gull wing hatch is something I've done in other models that will hinge on top of the combing, but be flush so you'll be able to sit up there or step over it easily. On the starboard side, we're going to have a new feature for us, and that is, you can see there's a recess right here. That will be filled with a panel that will be hinged here, and this panel will fold out and rest against the cockpit table leaf when it's down. And that'll create about a double size berth or a day lounge. That'll be contained by the combing on the outboard side, the cockpit table on the inboard side. So it'll be a very secure place to nap or sleep underway. These berths are all 6'6" long, so they'll be comfortable berths or cockpit seats. Forward, we've done something here that's kind of unique. We're going to have a vertically telescopic cockpit hatch. This goes down into a cavity that's molded into the cockpit sole. This will be partitioned, so the forward half of that cavity will be for the hatch in the retracted position, but it will also create a place for sheets to be stored out of sight. This part will be a fiberglass part, not as you see it, and there'll be a cowling around here so you won't have the ability to put your foot in it, and it'll come up here to cover the hatch in the down position. This compartment has a very large 1.5-inch drain out through the bottom of the boat, so it'll never hold water. This hatch is the companionway hatch, and this is going to be a 1/2-inch Lexan hatch, so it'll be very strong as any of the deck hatches, so there'll be good light below, and it'll be strong enough to walk on. Both of these hatches will be Lexan. Into the 425 is to recess the companionway to create these surfaces parallel with the center line. The beauty of this is you have a place to brace yourself underway to work the winches, and it makes it much easier to reach the stoppers. It's far better than trying to kneel on the cockpit seat facing forward to be able to operate the winches. Much more secure feeling, to develop more power when you have something to lean against. As you can see forward, they're about 18 inches deep here, and very secure feeling cockpit. It's a boat you'll definitely feel like you're in, not on top of. We've seen too many modern designs that are very shallow cockpit combings, and you don't feel like you're securely in the boat. On this side of the boat, we always put our engine controls on the starboard side of the boat, because remember, this is your burden quadrant. When you're under power, you want to be at this side of the boat, steering the boat. So of course there'll be a wheel here, and the engine controls will be right here. Low enough so they won't entangle any sheets, but handy to the helmsman. We paid a lot of attention to keeping everything on the cabin top low profile. This is not the exact traveler we'll be using. We have another traveler we've designed that has, the shibs are closer together so it won't be quite as wide, and again, lower profile. The sea hood's not on this boat, but it's a very low profile sea hood. It extends all the way forward and integrates those flush hatches that are forward. There are two hatches opposite each other, so you'll have hatches you can open regardless of the direction that the wind is facing the boat. Again, they're large Lewmar trimless hatches, and they'll be flush mounted. Again, kind of keeping with a low profile, very sleek look we've tried to carry out throughout this design. 5 deck, and a couple of interesting things that have been done here is notice that the Dodger attachment points are recessed into the deck. What this will do is allow us to keep all the lines that pass through with a continuous splash guard so water doesn't enter the underneath the Dodger, and also any water that runs down the Dodger windshield goes overboard in continuous trough. We've worked hard to keep everything low profile on this deck, very low profile traveler attachment points. The sea hood and hatch enclosures are very low profile, and the cabin itself is very low profile, making it much easier to step up to the cabin top and have lots of free area here to sit on or to walk on when you're accessing the boom. We're going to have what's called a double-ended or German main sheet system. That's where we're able to lead it to both sides of the cockpit aft, to either the console or all the way aft to the helm. Something that's kind of unique on the 425, and I think is a welcome but disappearing feature on many modern boats, are very wide weather decks. These weather decks, as you can see here, to the tow rail, are about 25 inches wide. It's great to have nice wide weather decks with our 28-inch handrails, which make going forward unimpeded with no toe stubbers to worry about. We've also put the chain plates very far inboard. This is a swept back spreader rig. Spreader angles are approximately this line that you see right here, swept back about 20 degrees. Far enough aft so we don't need forward lowers to support the mast, but will not interfere with the main when you're going downwind. Kind of a sweet spot where we've compromised. It worked very well on the Catarina 42. Also gives us one major chain plate attachment on deck as opposed to 3 on each side. Again, keeps the weather decks very open, extremely wide. To the foredeck, which is very open. But before we get there, look at this cabin top. We're going to have a molded-in track for the self-tacking jib, which will be standard on the 425. And this track will be a lot. This is just mocked up. The real track will be much larger, but it'll be at a slight angle of about 20 degrees, so it fair leads directly to the clew of the sail. But forward of that boss for the self-tacking jib track, we have a little over 6 feet of flush cabin top area. This is a flush hatch, and we're going to offer an optional sun pad that will be held in place by handrails on each side. So you have about a 6 foot by 6 foot at the head sun lounge on the foredeck. I'll show you what a low, sleek deck this is and how nice and wide the weather decks are going all the way forward. Plenty of space here if you're going to be handling a spinnaker or the asymmetrical. Forward of this anchor locker is going to be the double anchor roller, and we're doing a different kind of anchor roller we've done before with anchors spread apart a little bit more, so you can carry 2 large anchors permanently on the rollers if you choose to do so, and they'll be led in a stainless steel channel all the way back to the anchor locker. The anchor locker we're doing a little bit differently than we've done in the past. Again, it's evolutionary. We learn something from each boat we do. And as you can see, this is sort of a modified diamond-shaped anchor locker lid. And it's set up so you can easily handle 2 roads, one on each side of this divided bin. We chamfered the corners so you have a place to step, because there are times you need to be able to walk forward to get to the anchor roller. And if you have a very big lid with square corners, it's difficult to do that. This also gives us a place for cleats for each road and dead ends for each road. Of course, this is a vertical windlass with a jib seat below and a bollard on top. This is where we'll have a plug for the wired windlass control. We're not going to do power up and power down buttons. I think they're a little awkward to reach. So it's much easier for most folks to be able to keep both feet firmly planted on the foredeck and use a handheld remote. We'll also have an optional plug for this remote in the cockpit for those who want to deploy the anchor from the cockpit. We're inside the hull liner plug for the new 425. Where we are in the tooling sequence right now is we have completed a hull mold and a hull collar mold, and we've completed the mold for the grid. We have built both those parts. There's a real grid underneath this, and this is a real 425 hull, which we wanted to have the exact laminate so we get all the thicknesses correct. Where it's blanked out here, there'll be large windows in the hull, but not cut in yet, of course. This hull liner is a mock-up. We'll make a mold from this to make the actual hull liner for the interior. What you see at this point, because there's no sole down, are the cavities. It'll be subsole. This will be open, of course. This will be a water tank, and on the port side will be a large fuel tank. We've elected to keep all the tanks large and low and subsole. They'll be removable and accessible, but we want to concentrate the weight low and in the middle of the boat. Of course, the keel is right here. What you're looking at, the galley will be here on the port side. There'll be a countertop coming out to this surface, be a large front-loading fridge right here, a smaller freezer compartment, and we beefed up the insulation on these freezer compartments, so they really do make series freezers now. There'll be a 3-burner stainless steel stove here, stove hood above, microwave, pantry on this side, door to the aft cabin, symmetrical door on the other side to the aft cabin. This area right here will be the aft head. So there'll be a passage through here to the aft head, to the aft head and the aft cabin. Because we're using a recessed companionway in this boat, one that telescopes below the cockpit sole, we're able to keep the threshold height very low. So even though you can see this represents headroom inside the cabin, we have a lot of headroom, we're able to keep the threshold height very low. And the beauty of that is we can use this very nice 4-step companionway ladder, which we have used this ladder before in other models, and it's probably the easiest ladder to navigate. It's been a popular feature in some other models. So again, we want to integrate the features we know work from previous models into a new model. The engine will be directly behind this. This will hinge in some fashion. We're not sure if it's going to hinge up or forward yet at the bottom. But behind this will be the engine space. Great engine access. There'll be 2 AT batteries here. The primary engine, which will be the new 57 horsepower common rail Yanmar diesel with electronic controls, will be right here. So you can see when that's open, you'll have great engine access. We've elected to keep these bulkheads parallel with the on each side to create a large mechanical space or engine room in the center of the boat. What that does is gives us a place for the engine, allows us to accommodate 6.6 or 6.5 generator in a sound shield box in the center of the boat. Have a place for the water heater and a place for the air conditioners, all in the center line of the boat in a sound insulated compartment. There'll be a bulkhead here, it goes all the way up to the cabin top right here and out to the weather decks. You can see our weather decks are quite high, which we like because we all have a lot of headroom and great visibility all the way out to the hull sides inside the boat. The bulkhead will be right here, of course. After the bulkhead, there's almost 3 feet of floor space in this cabin. It's a little bit bigger aft cabin than we've done in some other models. This cabin, this side will be what we call the flex side. Even though the cabins are equal size, both have berths that are 54 inches wide at the head, which is double berth size, or double bed size. This one will be more suitable to be used for storage when it's not used as a sleeping cabin. What we're going to do in this one is this part of the berth will hinge up and lock in this position. So you can use this as a large storage bin for bikes, crab traps, fenders, whatever you need to carry along. And then it'll fold down like this. And here on this side will be a series of large hinged doors. And when these doors are opened, you'll have access to the port side of the engine. You'll have access to the service side of the generator. You'll have access to the hot water heater. You have access to the air conditioners. So all the stuff you need to get at are right here. We'll also have, right in this area, our traditional 5 Series filter locker. So there'll be a locker door you can open up and have access to the fuel filter and the cooling water filter and the anti-siphon valve all in one location. During construction, this isn't a part of the boat, so the doorways aft will be, the passageways will be fully over about 6'4" in the passageway itself. You'll have a sole all the way aft to this bulkhead, and we'll have an access panel again to a lazarette. Above me, where I am right now, at about this height, will be the gull-wing hatch. So when you open the gull-wing hatch, you'll have plenty of ventilation and a place to stand up and a place to get things in and out of this large storage locker. The beauty of this big gull-wing hatch is it lets us get any of the tanks that are in this boat out of that hatch, and all the tanks are removable, so we don't do any captive tanks. But when that gull-wing hatch is open, you'll be able to use this as a work surface or get things in and out of it very easily without going through the companionway. 425 has a very generously sized owner's cabin forward. The bulkhead will be just about here with a passageway door. There'll be about a 16 to 20 inch end table on the other side of that bulkhead in the main cabin. On the forward side of the bulkhead, it'll be right here. We have a 40-inch wide hanging locker, and then forward of that, a seat. This is a little passageway for wires, of course. Subsole in this cabin, we have an 8D battery, which services the windlass and bow thruster. And in typical Catalina fashion, we've molded in channels that are subsole for wire runs throughout the boat. So to access these, you just lift up the cabin sole and the wire runs are all there. This, of course, goes to the bow thruster and the windlass. This will be the berth platform forward. It's the largest berth platform in any of the 5 Series boats. It's about 6 inches longer than the others we've done and about 6 inches wider than the other berth platforms we've done. It'll have our traditional electric lifting forward end, so you can read in bed without a lot of pillows. Right here will be a bulkhead, of course. This will be a locker, a blanket bin, and the after end of this berth will hinge up and down. Here will be large double drawer lockers. These will be bilge accesses. The head will be right here on the port side. We're going to have a stall shower in the corner, a vanity with a vessel sink, an electric head with a gravity drain waste system. Again, things we've done, tried and true for us. Again, we build on the systems we know work and integrate new designs as they become available and proven. Well, I think that's about the interior of the 425. Hope you've enjoyed having a look. We've enjoyed showing it to you. If you have any comments, questions, suggestions, we'd love to hear them. You can email me at Catalina Yachts in Largo, Florida. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. We value customers' comments.